What's up, everybody? Happy month of April O'Neil to you. It's April 2nd. Fuck all you April Fool's Day people with your fake news stories and your crap. If you didn't shake up a beer and make it explode somebody's house, your prank sucked. I hope you're well. No Remember the Game this week, as I am sticking with the tradition of now skipping the first Wednesday of the month to give me a little bit more time to crush games from the backlog for the show. But I will tell you, April is going to be a banger for Remember the Game. We are really shooting to cover XCOM 2 next week. I'm pretty close to finishing it, hoping to get it done by the weekend so that we can get that recorded and drop it next week. It's a big fucking game. WWE Day of Reckoning for the GameCube will be going live the week of WrestleMania. Hot Shots Golf just won our Patreon poll, so that's going to be coming up in the next few weeks, and I'm working on Okami as well. But those are for the future. For this week, I thought I'd go way back in the Patreon archives and blow the dust off my Last of Us Part 2 episodes. And yes, I said episodes, as I recorded both a spoiler-free review of the game and a full-blown spoiler cast to talk about everything that happened. So I thought I'd toss them both up here this week, with the second season of the show being right around the corner and The Last of Us Part 2 dropping on PC this week as well. So if you want a spoiler-free breakdown, check out the spoiler-free review episode here on Remember the Game. And if you want a spoiler cast, check out that episode. I recommend checking out both because downloads, why the fuck not? I will point out, these are expansion pass episodes 14 and 15. And to put that into perspective, episode 250 goes live tomorrow. So these are almost 5 years old. I recorded them right after I played The Last of Us Part 2 back when it first released. So if I sound less good at podcasting than I do right now, that's why. They're almost 5 years old. And just before we get to the episode, one last note on the topic of Patreon. I have listened to the feedback of the hot dogs. Don't ever say I'm not a man of the wieners. I have made the decision to start offering Remember the Game ad-free with timestamps as part of our $3 tier over on Patreon. So I'm working on setting them up this week. It's a bit of a process. Patreon is not the easiest website in the world to work with. So I'm working on it right now. I'm hoping to have the entire 328 episode, including the mysterious missing episode 2 of Remember the Game, up on Patreon by April 7th. But bear with me, they may take a little bit of time. So if you've been thinking about supporting us on Patreon, there's never been a better time. I'll be honest, from a business perspective, I've made the decision to sacrifice a little bit of ad revenue in the hopes of growing my subscriber count on Patreon. I really do feel the value we offer over there is pretty ridiculous for $3. And now I'm adding 328 episodes of new ones coming every time I Remember the Game drops, with timestamps and 0 ads. So you can just skip through them. Well, when I say 0 ads, I will point out there might be 1 or 2 of the old episodes where we baked an ad into the show. But I don't want to say any sponsors. They're older episodes, but those are old episodes. You won't get any of the current sponsors, ones that are cut in. When I say we'll be right back after this, we will just be right back after that. There won't be any after that to do or anything like that. So I encourage you to check it out if you've been interested. Again, subscription started just $3 a month at patreon.com/remember the game. You know the whole rigmarole. I don't feel like talking anymore. So thank you so much for listening to the show. I appreciate it. I hope you enjoy. I'm just gonna use the same intro for both the spoiler-free episode and the spoiler cast because I'm a lazy fuck. So 2 for 1. So whether you're listening to the spoiler-free review of The Last of Us Part 2 or you're listening to my Part 2 spoiler cast, I hope you enjoy this episode. Maybe check out the other one. Yeah, and I'll talk to you later. Cheers. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the 15th edition of Remember the Game Expansion Pass. It is our Patreon exclusive podcast here at Remember the Game Industries. And if you are hearing this, you have decided that our podcast is worth $2 of your hard-earned money. So thank you so much for supporting us. And you have also apparently decided that you are okay with listening to spoilers about The Last of Us 2. And I mean, you hopefully have picked that up from the topic, the name of the episode, the description, all that stuff. But this is your final warning. I'm about to ruin the entire game, so you have been warned. I don't want to get any complaints. Spoilers, 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 spoilers. If you don't want to listen to spoilers, download episode 14, which would have also gone live today, which is my completely spoiler-free review. I don't ruin anything in that for the first game or the second one, I don't think. I mean, nothing big anyway, so check that out. But if you're here, this is your last chance. Get out now. Spoilers. Here we go. I tried to keep the whole thing. Oh, yeah. Also, obviously, as you can tell, I've released it as 2 separate episodes. The spoiler-free review episode ended up going for about an hour, which I didn't quite expect. So instead of making like a 2-hour episode, because I don't know how long the spoiler cast is going to go, I'm just giving you guys 2 episodes. So there you go. Everything is out in the open. I tried to keep this thing organized, but as I was typing out my thoughts and just writing down what I wanted to talk about, it became such a mishmash of everything. So just settle in and get ready for a ride, because we're going all over the world, The Last of Us 2 here. First of all, I have to address this. First of all, the 2 spoilers, if you don't know, I can't imagine you're listening to this or listening to the regular podcast, but for 2 months, I have been complaining on Remember the Game that some dickhead posted spoilers from Last of Us Part 2, and I saw them, and I've been dreading this game, and I've been dreading finding out that these fucking spoilers are accurate, and I can finally tell you what the spoilers were. It turned out one of them was true, and one of them wasn't. And the 2 spoilers that I saw were that Joel dies, and that Ellie gets raped. And fortunately, the Ellie rumor wasn't true. And I saw those. I was scrolling through the PS4 Reddit, and someone had just posted it as a topic. There was no way to miss it. They didn't flag it as a spoiler and put it inside the topic or anything. I was just scrolling by, and some dickhead put, "Can't believe Joel dies and Ellie gets raped, Last of Us Part 2." And I was like, you motherfucker. I left the PlayStation 4 Reddit. I refused to hashtag the game online when I was talking about it, because there were so many dickheads running around spoiling stuff. So here's the thing. I'm grateful that the Ellie rumor wasn't true, but Joel dies in like the first few hours of the game. And it's a sad scene, and I'm sitting there watching it, and I was so fucking angry because I knew goddamn well that it was coming. I knew that he was about to die, and what really sucked is because he died, just like that spoiler said, I spent the entire game dreading that the Ellie rumor was true too. And it did take away from the experience of the game a little bit, because there's like a good sense of dread in a game like this, where you're in a dark basement and you know that some zombie is going to come out and try to eat you. And that's the whole reason people play horror games, right? But there's a bad sense of dread when every goddamn time I went to a new area, interacted with bad guys, went to a cutscene, Ellie got in trouble, I thought, this is the scene where Ellie is going to get raped. And I had no fucking interest in seeing that. I was so angry, and I spent the whole game dreading it. And at least it didn't happen. And I got this like weight of relief, like this weight taken off my shoulders at the end of the game, because I thought, well, at least Ellie fucking got through there. But there were 2 points. There's the part where Ellie goes into the farmhouse where she's rounding up the sheep, and it's really dark, and the one sheep runs away, and she's like, well, where are you going? And I thought, fuck me, someone is going to jump out and get her right now. Or the second part is when Ellie gets caught in the tree trap where it wraps around her foot and pulls her up into the tree, and those 2 guys come out and they're laughing and they cut her down, and I thought, motherfuckers, now it's going to happen. So I was texting with a buddy of mine about it too, who doesn't play the games, he doesn't care, and he said there is no way that they would put that in a video game. And I hope that he's right, but at the same time, I'm not sold on that, because movies and television shows have had disturbing things like rape and stuff in them, and these Last of Us games play like a season of television. And I'm not saying that I want to see it or anything like that, but I don't think it's impossible that they put that in the game. Although I will say, if they put a scene like that in that game probably gets an adult only rating. And as we talked about last week on Expansion Pass, that's a fucking black eye on a video game. So I think that obviously I'm glad it wasn't in there, kept them from getting adults only. Nobody wanted to see it happen to fucking Ellie, because I love Ellie, right? But I'm just glad it didn't happen. And the other thing is, like, all of these fucking people are online and these reviewers are shitting on Last of Us 2 and saying this game goes too far, it's too dark, it's too much. And again, I just assumed what they were talking about was this fucking rape scene. And I spent the whole game dreading it, and it wasn't true. And I'm both relieved that it wasn't true and angry that I had to spend my whole game fucking thinking about it. God damn it, it pisses me off. So I really thought that scene where she got tied up in the tree, I'll get into more of it in a minute, was where it was going to happen. But I was so happy that not only did it not happen there, but that turned into my favorite scene in the game. So win-win. Ellie is just such a badass. She's a smart ass. She's likable. I love the character. I love that kid, and I did not want to see something bad happen to her. So, and just quick, getting back to people that were saying this game was too dark, there have been people comparing this to Schindler's List, and that is just fucking dumb. It is very violent. It's dark. It's gory. It's sad. While you're playing it, you can't help but think about it and how shitty life would be to have to live in that kind of world. But that's what they're trying to get through with the game, is that this world is shitty and it does suck and you don't want to be here. That's why this game wouldn't be nearly as good if it wasn't that dark and gory, right? Schindler's List is about a real life event that was absolutely horrendous. This is a fake video game set in a made up world. Like, just, that's a dumb fucking take. Dumb take. And if murder, violence, and gore offend you so much, then how about you just don't play M-rated games, you fucking idiots. That's how I feel. So with that said, let's unpack this game. I want to start with this story. Joel and Ellie are living in this new community called Jackson, and it seems pretty happy to start. They're safe. There's a bunch of people there. They have food. They have power. They have houses. But Ellie and Joel, they establish very quick they're off. The relationship's just a little weird, and I think most of us are probably wondering right off the gate, as soon as the game starts, does Ellie know? Right? And again, it's a spoiler cast. I can spoil whatever I want. At the end of the first game, they fucking spent the whole game trying to get to this hospital where the Fireflies were going to use Ellie and her immunity to try to develop a vaccine for this fucking virus. And Joel realized that if they want to get the vaccine out of her, they're going to have to kill her. So Joel kills the doctors, rescues Ellie, and then tells Ellie that they said there was nothing they could do with her to create a vaccine. And it's a lie, and it's a big cliffhanging ending to the first game, and it was really well done. And then you're like, holy fuck, so I just spent the whole game playing as Joel, who's supposed to be a hero, and it turns out he's a selfish asshole that wouldn't let Ellie sacrifice herself to save the world. So when this game starts, you're wondering, does Ellie know? That's the big question, right? That's the number one thing we all want to know. And early in the game, Joel's telling Tommy the truth. They're sitting around, Joel explains the whole thing to Tommy, but then Joel dies. And I was so mad that he died early on in the game because I wanted to know if Ellie knew that he lied. And eventually, they tell you. I was so rattled that they killed him without her finding out. And admittedly, I never even thought of there being flashbacks. I can't believe I never even thought of it. Like, they can do as many flashbacks and cutscenes as they want and tell us what happened between the end of the first game and what happened when they, how they got to Jackson. So they do eventually end up explaining all that stuff via the flashbacks. And I got to say, I loved most of the flashback scenes. I loved them. The Abby ones, I could take or leave. And we'll get more into her in just a minute. But anything where it was a flashback to Joel and Ellie, I fucking loved it. And I think it was just a combination of getting to play as the characters that I loved the most, that I wanted to play as. Because all I wanted out of Last of Us Part 2 was more Joel and Ellie. Like, that's what I wanted. Whether I got it or not is a debate, but that's what I wanted. And so anytime I got a cutscene where I got to play them as them again, it was not only fun because it was getting to play as those characters, but it was nice not having to worry as much about scrounging for supplies because it's flashbacks. You know, there's not going to be any big weapons that you need to get for the future of the game because they're flashbacks. Plus, I just wanted to know what happened. I was so enamored every time one of those cutscenes came along because I wanted to know what happened between the end of game 1 and the start of game 2. And there's a great cutscene where Joel took Ellie to this old museum that he had found for her birthday. And I just thought it was so awesome because that was the first game again. That was what I wanted. There's a scene, the two of them climbing like a spaceship model or something. And Joel gives her birthday present, which is a set of headphones or a cassette tape for her Walkman. And the cassette tape is the audio from I I don't know, one of the spaceships like launching, and Ellie can just close her eyes and lay there in this thing and listen to this thing and forget about the shitty world for a minute and just be a kid and pretend to be going into outer space. And I loved that scene. I was like, there is more heart in any one of those little flashback cutscenes with Joel and Ellie than I feel like there is in the rest of the game. And maybe that's not true, but I was so connected to those characters and just wanted to be with them again. You know, it's selfish maybe, but that's what I wanted. So, and I'm not going to shit on this game. I am going to get the bad stuff out of the way first, then I'm going to get into the good stuff. I don't want to shit all over this game, but I really do think I would have preferred it if the whole game had just been Joel and Ellie traveling from, like, literally pick up a day after the end of the first game, and the whole game is just them getting to Jackson, where they ended up now. I think I would have preferred that to what we got for a story, but that said, there's still a lot to like about the current story of this game.
This is an ad by BetterHelp. A band once said, "Work sucks, I know." And I think most people agree with them. Workplace stress is now one of the top causes of declining mental health, with 61% of the global workforce experiencing higher than normal levels of stress from their jobs. And while walking away from your job might not be an option, taking a little time every day to focus on yourself and your mental health can make a huge difference. I know in the summer I try to get outside every day, get a little bit of sun, and just enjoy the outdoors. It really helps. At least until my allergies attack, and then it's ugly. It's important to take steps to combat work stress, and therapy can be a huge one. It's not just for overcoming trauma. Therapy can help you define work goals, set some work boundaries, develop coping skills. It's like a cheat code for life. And if you're thinking, man, I'm too busy for therapy, well, look into BetterHelp. They make therapy as convenient as possible. You can meet with one of their over 30,000 therapists online and on your schedule, just like over 5 million people around the world already have done. As the largest online therapy provider in the world, BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a diverse variety of expertise. Unwind from work with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at BetterHelp.com/rememberthegame. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/rememberthegame. We've had some great partners over the years here at Remember the Game, but I don't know if any of them have hit home for me quite like Hometown Hero does. No pun intended. Don't start. It's a transparent, honest cannabis company that helps people and gives back to those that have served their country at the same time. I mean, come on. As soon as I read about these guys, I knew I wanted to work with them. Hometown Hero is a cannabis company out of Austin, Texas, and they were founded back in 2015 by a U.S. veteran. They have two goals: create premium hemp products that can help everyone, and to support veterans by donating a portion of those profits to organizations set up to take care of those who have served. Hometown Hero products are of the highest quality, and everything they offer is made right there in the U.S. of A. Gummies, caramels, chocolates, drink mix. There's something for everyone. And what's more, their hemp is grown locally in Texas, which is something they should and do take a lot of pride in. And they offer certificates of analysis for everything they sell because they want to be clear that their products are as advertised, both in terms of potency and ingredients. No contaminants, you get what you pay for. Just how they conduct business is enough to get my good eyes' attention. But when you circle back to the fact that the company was founded by a veteran and they put such heavy emphasis on supporting veterans, this isn't just lip service. I'm not reading a script I was given here. I'm proud to have Hometown Hero associated with Remember the Game. Reclaim your evening. Visit hometownhero.com and use code RTG to take 20% off your first purchase. That's hometownhero.com, code RTG for 20% off your first purchase.
And then we get the scene where Joel finally admits the truth, because Ellie's just like crying, and she's just like, just fucking, because Ellie knew. Because Ellie went back, and if I may be getting these cutscenes mixed up, but I don't think I am. Ellie went back to the hospital where they had gotten to, where they were going to operate on her to try to get the vaccine, and she found some doctor's notes or something that basically said, like, yeah, we could kill her, but we could save the world. And then she realized, like, she knows. And that's what I like, is that she clearly knows that Joel just wouldn't let them kill her to save humanity. And finally she calls him out and is like, just stop fucking lying. Just tell me the truth. And so Joel admits the whole thing, admits the truth, says he would do it again, and Ellie tells him, we're done. Like, that is, and that's the scene I wanted. That was the scene I want. That was like, I am like, The whole $80 I paid for this game was almost worth it just to get that scene and just to get that confrontation that I have fucking been waiting for since 2013. Plus, now it makes sense as to why they were distant and why they were acting weird. There's one point where Ellie says, I was thinking about, this is before Joel died, where she's like, I was thinking about inviting Joel over to watch a movie tonight. And you get the impression that that's something they used to do and then they stopped doing because they were distant from each other. And now you understand why Joel is explaining to Tommy why he did what he did, because Tommy was saying to Ellie, hey, I don't know what your problem is with Joel, but you should try to be nice to him. And Joel basically explains to Tommy, like, well, she's pretty mad at me because I didn't let her save the world. So it finally all came together. I got the fucking payoff that I wanted, and I was so happy. But I thought they employed the flashbacks quite well, but I almost think they hurt the game in a way because they were giving us what we wanted, the Joel Ellie, or at least I'm speaking on behalf of myself. I keep saying we, but this is me. They gave me the interactions that I wanted between Joel and Ellie and their history and stuff, but then they would take it away and make me go back to learning about these characters that I just don't really care about. Because I just didn't care about most of the new characters, right? I spend like 5 hours dealing with characters like Dina and Jesse, and then I get a flashback to Joel and Ellie for an hour, and then it's back to Dina and Ellie, or Dina and Jesse. And I almost resent Dina and Jesse because I'm like, you guys aren't why I'm here. God, take me back to Ellie and Joel. I don't care about you guys. You know? And then the fact that they killed Joel so early in the game is fine. I get that it's the whole premise of the story is Ellie out for revenge for them killing Joel. I think that I would have, like, if they're going to do that story where they kill Joel and then Ellie goes out to try to avenge him, I would have preferred Ellie alone chasing after Tommy and the bad guys than making me play with Dina and Jesse along with her the whole time. Right? Like, it's like, we'll finish off the story, then we'll get into the characters. So Abby, they introduce this character named Abby, and Abby and her friends kill Joel. Well, Ellie and Tommy watch them, try to convince them to stop, and then they leave Ellie and Tommy alive. Tommy is Joel's brother. They leave them alive and tell them, just get out of here. And I thought that was a little odd, but then it makes sense later on in the game. So then Ellie and Tommy are obsessed with going out, finding these people, finding Abby, and avenging Joel. And I'm okay with that too, because while I don't think it's as strong of story like a premise as Joel trying to get Ellie to a doctor to save humanity, it's a serviceable storyline, and it explains why I'm playing this game and why they're leaving, right? To me, where the story kind of comes unglued, is frankly at its best part, right? Because you find out that the people that killed Joel, specifically Abby, is the daughter of the doctor that was going to operate on Ellie at the end of game 1 that Joel killed. And I love that idea so much because the game really starts to become who's the bad guy. And the first game was like that because you spend the whole game thinking Joel and Ellie are the heroes and everyone else is the bad guys. Then at the end of the game, Joel kind of becomes the bad guy because instead of saving the world, he's selfish and he saves Ellie instead. So now Abby, you think, is the bad guy in part 2 because she killed Joel. But then you find out she only killed Joel because Joel killed her dad for trying to save the world. It's like, so who's the bad guy? Is Joel the bad guy? Is Abby the bad guy? Is Ellie the bad guy? Because Ellie doesn't know that Abby killed Joel for that reason. So she's just out for revenge, and that's perfect. I'm totally on board with all of that. And I love knowing that Abby had her reasons to kill Joel and that she left Ellie alive because she just wanted revenge on Joel. She wasn't out to just kill everybody. I like playing as Ellie, going after Abby, but not knowing that Abby actually isn't that bad of a person. I hope that makes sense. I fucking loved all of that. But where the story goes wrong, in my opinion, is after Ellie realizes that Abby killed Joel to avenge her dad, Ellie still insists on getting revenge and killing Abby. And now I'm in this weird middle ground where I'm not really cheering for anyone. Like, if anything, I guess I'm kind of cheering for Abby because throughout the game, they do a decent job of making you at least kind of care about her, which again, I'll get into in a minute. And I can't help but feel like I want to tell Ellie, like, let it go, dude. Like, Joel killed her dad, so she killed Joel. That's it. Like, why are you still after her? Then that's my problem. I don't like Ellie's friends. I don't want Ellie to kill Abby. I spent a large part of the game not really liking Abby, and I don't really want to see anyone win, right? Like, it was fun when I was just killing bad people, but I really didn't know who am I supposed to be cheering for.
at this point, right? And I'm just going to be honest, if I was writing the game, I would have found a way to have Ellie and Abby team up. Maybe it's reluctant, maybe they still hate each other, but have them team up to stop the wolves or the scars or something, a common enemy, right? And then you can still have the same ending. Have Abby try to walk away, have Ellie want to fight her, want to kill her, and then come to her senses and decide not to kill her at the last minute. At least that would have given me a reason to cheer for somebody, because I would have been cheering for Abby and Ellie to stop whoever this bigger enemy is, right? Instead of I felt very lost. And just give me an enemy. You have lots to choose from. You have these two groups, these two psycho groups that you could do whatever you want with. There's the wolves and there's the scars. And I like both groups and the concepts behind them, but I feel like they didn't really do enough with them, particularly the scars. Okay, because the wolves are this group of rebels that basically overtook the military in Seattle. It didn't like the way the government was trying to handle the situation, and they rebelled. And now they're basically the military. They're the law. They have all the resources. They've taken over. And Abby is in their group. And when you start playing as her and you can explore their like HQ and stuff, it's really cool. And I totally was on board with that. Dude, the scene where you get to basically go through their like main camp and you realize they've moved into a football stadium and like the field is turned into like a farm, and they've set up all these planters in the stands where they're growing vegetables, and they're in this giant football stadium where the zombies can't get in. I loved that. Anytime you get to go into a real place, like for our lives, and see how these people have modified it or changed it to make it into like their home, or like how they're dealing with the world now. I think that's one of the coolest things about this game. So I really liked that part. And then you meet Isaac, who's the leader of the wolves. He seems like a cold-hearted asshole. He's like torturing scars that they've caught. And I'm totally on board with that too. And I feel like he should have been the bad guy at the end of the game. And I got the impression that he was going to be, and maybe they just didn't want to make it predictable, but I would have preferred the predictability. Like, because there's the leader of this fucking group who just seems like a piece of shit, but there's they don't really do anything with them, right? And then they introduce the scars. Hang on a second here. I need some water. I just finished recording the review, so I've been talking nonstop for about an hour and a half now. So then they introduce the scars, who are this religious group that hunt. They use bows and they horseback riding, and I love the way they whistle. Like when they're like if you're fighting a bunch of them and you're like a field, the way they do those loud whistles to indicate to each other where they are and stuff like that. Because once you hear those whistles, it's the equivalent of hearing the clicking from the clickers, where you're like, oh shit, here come the scars. And then you find out the wolves and the scars hate each other. They feud with each other. They at one point had a truce, then went back on it. They're feuding with each other. But then instead of feuding with one of them and going after one of those groups, you end up for most of the game just playing this cat and mouse chase between Ellie and Abby. And Abby's just like, fuck off, Ellie. I want nothing else to do with you. And Ellie's like, where's Abby? I'm going to kill her. Even though she knows that Abby was kind of in the right for what she did in a way. And I think it would have been way cooler if it was me, I would have made it find out that the scars are nice. They're just living off the land. They want no problems. But Isaac, the leader of the wolves, is murdering them or something. And so, that's what I would have preferred. And then that's why Abby turns on the wolves, because eventually she turns on the wolves, but it's almost for no reason. I would have had Isaac be leading the wolves. They're killing the scars. The scars aren't out to kill anyone. They're just fighting back against the wolves. So Abby realizes they're pieces of shit. She turns on them. She hates Isaac. Make Ellie join her for some reason to take down Isaac. And now I've got someone to cheer for. And then you could have had Ellie and Abby walking through the world together, just like Joel and Ellie did. And the two of them are talking shit to each other or something like that and slowly bonding. That's what I wanted. Like, even just to try to explain it, the story makes sense. Maybe it seems very convoluted, but there's just so much more they could have done with it, in my opinion. And I will say, as far as Abby goes, they did a great job hiding the fact that you spend like half of the game playing as her, playing as a new character. And the simple fact of the matter is, it would not have gone over well if people knew that. And there was so much outrage about the game when the spoilers leaked and stuff like that. And I really think that's one of the main things people were upset about. You've teased it for years that we're going to get to play another game with Joel and Ellie, and then you get to spend half the game playing as this other new character. And people wouldn't have liked it if they had known. I didn't like it.
right? Because until you get a good 6 or 7 hours into playing as Abby and get to know her character a little bit and start to get a little bit of sympathy for her, she just seems like an asshole that killed Joel, and I don't want to be her, and I don't want to play as her, and I have no interest in being with her. No interest. And I would legitimately like to know if anyone got to her part of the story, realized that I have to start playing as her, and just said, fuck this. Because I admittedly, as much as I like this game, had small instances where I considered it. I can't imagine I wasn't going to finish this game, but there were certainly points where I was playing as Abby and was like, fuck this. I don't want to be you. I don't know who you are. And even once you find out that her dad was the doctor that was going to work on Ellie that Joel killed, I'm still not really cheering for her because she seems like such a bitch. Like, she seems like a mean person. But now I don't care about her friends. And now I'm not really that excited about cheering for Ellie because I feel like Abby's like, why is Ellie out to, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not cheering for anyone, right? And then Abby turns on the wolves, saves a Scar that's been kicked out of his group, and the two of them become best friends and run off. And I get that, like, that Abby doesn't like the way the wolves are treating Owen, who's a guy that she loves, because Owen had showed a Scar mercy and refused to kill one. And it's supposed to be this big redemption angle, but I just never fully got on board with Abby. They make you like her enough to not want to see Ellie kill her. I will say that. And then there's another great scene where Ellie and Abby fight, and Abby for the second time shows mercy and lets Ellie get away. So they do a good enough job, I guess, in making me at least somewhat like Abby, but I never cared about her like I do about the main characters. If anything, all you did was make me care about Ellie less, which is the worst thing you could have done. And so, like, Ellie and Abby have this big fight where Abby wins, but then lets Ellie go again. She's like, I mean, I never want to see you again. And then they flash ahead. Like, and I don't know how they actually said how many years it was, but it was like a year or two. And Ellie's got this great life. And she's living on a farm with Dina and Dina's baby, and they're happy. And then she just decides to go after Abby again because Tommy shows up and says he knows where she is. And it's like, I hated this whole part. Like, it's over. You know why Abby killed Joel. Abby showed you mercy. You have this great life. Why are you going after her again? I hated that whole last few hours of the game from that point on because now I'm starting to think Ellie's an idiot. Like, I'm starting to not like the character who's supposed to be the heart of the game. And then you find out that Abby and Lev, who is the Scar that she ran off with, have been captured by this evil group in California that uses people as slaves, and they're just sick fucks. And Ellie breaks into their camp to find Abby, finally does, saves her life because she's a prisoner, and then fights her again. And it's like, why wouldn't you just make the wolves this evil group? Have Isaac be in charge of this evil group. Make it so Abby has no idea that Isaac is actually using the wolves as like an enslavement operation to make Scars fucking work for her or something. When she figures it out, Isaac catches her, Isaac torches her, and then Ellie saves her because she spared Ellie's life or something. Now, I don't hate Ellie. Ellie has her redemption story where she forgives Abby, which she ends up doing at the end of the game anyways. And now there's a villain to cheer against. I have no idea how you introduce the evilest characters in the game in the last 2 hours. You don't develop them, you don't use them, you don't give them any real character, and that whole last chapter just felt fucking tacked on, and it's my single biggest issue with the game. And I sure hope that made sense if you're listening to this and you haven't played it. I don't know how many people are going to listen to this that haven't played the game, but I'm telling you, that story would have been so much more entertaining. And I will get to the stuff I love in a minute because there's lots of good stuff. I just want to get all the bad out, then I can finish it on the good and walk away in a good mood. Ellie just seems like a fucking idiot near the end of the game. You're not really cheering for her. Abby's a redemption story, and I guess you're cheering for her, but even that could have been done better. And the rest of the characters just aren't good at all. There's Tommy, who is Joel's brother, who sets off to get revenge after Joel dies, and then Ellie decides to go after him to help him. And I have no issue with that. That makes complete sense. I would have preferred that Ellie ran off with Tommy, but I can live with Ellie going after Tommy. Instead, Ellie runs off with Dina. Dina is Ellie's girlfriend. She comes with her. Then you find out that Dina is pregnant and she's starting to get sick and she doesn't really help you that much and she just kind of sucks. It is a pain in the ass. And other than establishing that Ellie's a lesbian, I feel like Dina serves no real purpose. To me, I would have preferred it if back at like their main complex,
Ellie decides to go after Tommy. Dina reveals that she's pregnant, so she can't go. She stays behind. And then you could still do the part later where they're living together and they're in love and all that good stuff. And then Jesse shows up, who is the guy that got Dina pregnant. He's Ellie's friend. He's Dina's ex-boyfriend. He acts like the cool guy for an hour, and then he dies. I don't care about him either. So these are the characters that I'm stuck exploring for hours with. And I'm like, I have no interest in you guys. They're not doing anything to develop you. I really don't care if you fucking die, right? And then Abby meets up with Lev, who is this little kid. He's like 13, I think, who's a scar, and he's transgender. And if I'm not mistaken, I don't know if they ever fully say it, but the way I understand it, he was kicked out of the Scars for being trans and not just accepting his role as the female that he was born as. They reveal that he was born a girl and he's supposed to be married as he gets older, but he wanted to be a soldier, so he refuses to get married, and then he becomes like an outcast and they kick him out of the group, which I don't think it's a terrible story, but it just feels like it was thrown in to try to add like another political hot topic angle, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, I really feel like the trans thing, like it doesn't serve a purpose other than to use a lifestyle as a way to introduce a character and make an angle work. And I could understand how some members of the LGBTQ community are a little bit offended by that, because they're like, dude, we're not just like a gimmick. Do you know what I mean? And like, I don't mean it rudely. That's almost how it came across to me, is they were using it as a gimmick, which I thought was rude and border. I wasn't offended, but I certainly understand how people could be. Like, if anything, I thought maybe have Ellie save him, because she knows what it's like to be treated differently because of her sexuality, because there are people in her community that don't like the fact that she's gay. So maybe I could have, that to me maybe would have made a little bit more sense. I never really get on board with caring about this kid so much, mostly because Abby just suddenly decides that she cares about him, and I don't understand why. Abby is a wolf, and this kid is a scar. Lev, he's a scar, and they're supposed to be fighting with each other and hate each other, and then just over the span of about an hour and a half, they just decide to be friends and they run away together, and it just felt very forced. And it just didn't seem natural. I didn't care for it, you know? They introduce Isaac as the head of the wolves, and he's going to war with the Scars, whether it's right or not. And the Scars are just as evil, like if anything, maybe more evil than the wolves. But like, to me, he was the most interesting character of the new characters, and they didn't do anything with him. Everybody in the wolves is scared of him. He clearly runs with an iron fist, and he should have been in charge of that nameless evil group from the end of the game that's enslaving people. I'm telling you, that's what should have happened, and then they had to stop Isaac. That would have been so much better. And then there's Owen, like I mentioned, who is another member of the Wolves who Abby's in love with, but he got another girl pregnant, and then he showed mercy to some Scars during a fight and basically got ostracized from the Wolves, and now he's in hiding. And then there's Mel, who Owen has gotten pregnant, and Abby ends up killing them, trying to get her hands on Abby. Ellie ends up killing them, trying to get her hands on Abby. There's Yara, who is Lev's older sister and left the Scars with him because she felt bad for him because of the way they ostracized them, and just none of them mattered to me. They're all just there. They're all just in the way. I don't know. And as I write this, I realize like maybe they don't want you to cheer for anyone. Maybe they want you to be in this weird middle ground where you realize that this whole world is just shitty and nobody's really redeemable. But like, to me, that's not fun. So I really, like, that's the story, which again, like, I don't hate it, but I really feel like it was just, for lack of a better term, half-assed. It didn't get anywhere near its potential. I thought they introduced a lot of cool concepts, and then they all just kind of fizzled out and blended together. Really disappointing. Like, not terrible, but just sad, you know? And also, another thing I don't like about this game, as I mentioned in the review, I thought there was just a little too much scrounging for supplies, which would have been much more fun if Dina, Jesse, and Ellie had talked more about what life had been like before, or if Ellie had been with Tommy and they had talked about Joel, or if Ellie and Abby had been together and had like talked shit to each other and acted like they didn't like each other, and slowly came to this agreement they got to take out Isaac, or so, like, there's just so much time where you're just blindly, quietly walking around looking for supplies. And I don't get how they didn't just have these characters talk to each other during it. It would have made it so much more interesting, fun, and entertaining, right? And then when you get to Seattle, you get this map and you realize that there's like a dozen buildings to jog through looking for stuff. It really drags. I thought that was the worst part of the game. Thankfully, the entire game doesn't turn into this big open world search like the first part of Seattle is. It does get back to more of a linear style, which is where the game shines. It's more fun. Oh, that fucking Seattle part, you have to go to 2 buildings, but you don't want to miss anything, so you go to like fucking a dozen buildings, and everyone's the same thing. Go into the dark, clean out the bad guys, find some supplies, go into the dark, clean out the bad guys, find some supply. And you're constantly looking at your map because there's no map on the overscreen and you're getting lost every 3 seconds. And I really thought the game went off the rails there. And I'm so happy the entire game wasn't like that, because that would have really, I wouldn't have liked it if the whole game had been like that. It shines in its linear style. It's more fun that way. Focus on the story that you're trying to tell, but I don't know what fucking story you're telling. So, and then, like I mentioned in my review as well, I hated some of the boss fights. There's one boss fight in particular where Ellie goes into the basement of this hospital, and I loved the entire hospital until the boss fight in the basement, where this fucking blob of infected people that seem to have kind of melted together comes out and starts chasing you around, right? And if it had been a clever lured into a trap boss fight, that would have been great. But it literally is just running around in a square, turning around, shooting your best ammo at this thing, and then running away again, and then shooting more ammo at it. It's not fun. After the shock value of seeing the bad guy, it's boring, and it's just a bullet cushion that just absorbs all your best ammo and blah. There's a boss fight in an Ellie Joel flashback that was kind of like the same thing. It's just like after the initial startle of seeing these gross creatures, it just becomes a shoot, run fight, and it's boring, right? I get maybe that you're just trying to be a video game, but don't be that video game. Like, they're not fun. There's one boss fight that I both liked and hated, and you control Abby and you fight Ellie, which I thought was a cool idea because Ellie is using all these moves that you've seen her learn over the last 2 games. But it also sucked because I was like, well, I don't want to kill Ellie. And I wasn't sure if I'm going to kill her and then Abby's going to take over the game or not. Fortunately, that didn't end up being the case. But I was like, I don't want to fight Ellie, right? Abby beats her. Abby has a chance to kill her, and then Abby lets her go again, which leads into that ending scene, which I also didn't particularly care. I know it sounds really negative. There's good stuff coming, I promise. But it leads into that end scene that I didn't care for, right? So Ellie and Abby fight, and then Abby lets her go and says, I never want to see you again. And then Ellie just goes back to her regular life. And she's living on a farm with Dina and the baby that Dina was pregnant with, because she's had it now, named JJ. And they seem really happy. And on a side note, I have to assume that JJ stood for Joel and Jesse, which is a really cool idea for the name of the baby, because Jesse was his dad. And then Tommy shows up and says to Ellie, we have a lead on Abby. Like, we found her. Let's go get her. And instead of Ellie just saying, hey, it's over. I have a great life now. She was right to kill Joel. She let me go. I forgive her. Ellie throws away her entire life with Dina for revenge. And I just thought it was so forced, so stupid. She tracks Abby to California because Abby and Lev had gone to California to try to find the Fireflies, the rebel group from the first game, to join them. And then Ellie gets to California, finds out that Abby's been taken a prisoner by these fucking psycho weirdo groups that enslave people. Ellie fights through the psychos. She rescues Abby so that she can kill her instead, tries to kill her, and then decides to let her go. And then Ellie goes back to her farm, finds out that Dina and the baby are gone. And I get that you're going for a sad ending, but it just felt like there was no conclusion. It just felt like all you did was ruin everything. I guess Ellie saved Abby and forgave her, and maybe that's the redemption arc, but it just felt like the Breaking Bad ending to me. And I don't want to say anything because I don't want to spoil Breaking Bad, but it just felt flat. Ellie threw away everything she had for revenge, fought through all these people to get revenge, then decided I don't want revenge anymore. And now we're like, well, you're just an idiot who threw away your life for nothing. Like that, I guess they were trying to make you feel like Ellie's growing up and she's finally realized that forgiveness is a great thing and stuff like that. But I just thought it missed the mark entirely. So, that's a lot of talking. Now that said, for all the stuff that I didn't like, which is what you just heard about, there is way more good than bad in this game. Way more. There's a ton that I do like. And the first thing that sticks out to me about this game is some of the environments. Like, Seattle is awesome. There's literally a forest in this city. It's gorgeous because a whole bunch of it is flooded because it rains out all the time. And the graphics are gorgeous and the sound is so good. You feel like you're out there and you're getting soaked. And it's so much fun to explore and be part of. There's another great scene where there's a hospital. That's from that boss fight I was talking about. Abby goes to this hospital for supplies. And her friend tells her, you're going to have to go down to the basement to find supplies. The rest of the hospital's been picked clean. And she says, we didn't go into the basement for supplies because that's where they were putting people that were infected when this whole thing started. So then you realize that you have to go into this dark, partially flooded basement that is swarming with infected that have been trapped down there for like 20 years. It's creepy. It's so well done. You have no choice but to go down there. You're dreading it. I loved that part, right? There's a part where you're controlling Abby and you have to make your way through this old crashed ferry, like a ferry boat. And it's dark outside. It's storming. You can hear waves and water slashing up against this fucking boat. It's full of infected people. The atmosphere is superb. To me, that's where the game shines at its best, is some of these little environments it makes you go. And the ferry is a great example. There are so many places in this game where you find notes laying around that people wrote before they killed themselves or got infected. And it does such a great job kind of telling you what happened without having to do a flashback. And it's sad, but it grips you and it makes you understand why there's all these corpses laying around and stuff like that. There's this awesome part where you have to climb down through like a 20-story apartment building, and the building has just been fucking destroyed. In the middle of it, there's just a giant hole where you can see right down to the ground floor, and the whole apartment is full of infected people, and you basically just have to slowly climb your way down through the building and fight off infected and try not to fall. It's really creepy. It's satisfying. You're looking for supplies the whole way you go down. Although I will say, the reason you're climbing down through this giant building is because you enter it at the top. And if you're thinking, well, how the fuck did you get to the top of the giant building? Lev, the runaway Scar, explains to Abby that the Scars have built bridges across all the rooftops in Seattle to try to get around without having to fight with the wolves. But what's stupid about it is that none of the wolves knew these bridges were there. Like, apparently they just refused to look up. And you can't tell me these buildings are so high that they're up in the clouds where you would never see these buildings, although they sure make it seem like you're up in the clouds. And I assume that they're implying that these bridges are hidden by fog and stuff in the sky. I've never been to Seattle, but you can't convince me that it's that foggy every day for like 20 years. So it just seemed a little silly to me that the wolves are down on the ground and they can't just look up and see these bridges that are built among buildings up in the sky, right? Like, so that was a little bit silly, but at the same time, it was intense. They established that Abby has a fear of heights and she's got to face this fear to go across these bridges. I also have a fear of heights, and there were a few instances where I felt myself getting a little bit queasy. So it was cool, albeit just a little bit stupid that nobody else noticed these bridges in the sky. Like I said, you get to explore a museum during a flashback between Ellie and Joel, which I thought was really fun because Joel's explaining to Ellie, like, well, what this used to be like and stuff. Abby and her friends are hiding out in this aquarium, which is also really fun to explore. And then you find out that a family had been hiding in the aquarium. So you can look at what they'd been through and what they had set up for their kids to play in and stuff like that. And then you find the corpse of one guy in the aquarium, and he's got a note there basically just saying that his family left him to go with the wolves. And then he killed himself because he was alone and sad. Like, it's really sad, but it's again, just that's the type of shit that just paints you into this fucking universe that you're so fascinated in exploring and finding out what's happened to people in. The game never leaves you in one place for too long, other than maybe that Seattle exploration part with the map. And having the ability to mix forests and wilderness with the city really helped Naughty Dog keep it fresh, because nature has kind of retaken over these cities after no one being in them for 20 years. And I loved exploring, and clearly that was all based on reality and making it all seem realistic, and none of it seemed fake or like forced. And I love the universe and the environments in this game. You go through stuff like old music stores, coffee shops that are clearly Starbucks coffee shops. At one point, you're in what was clearly a Home Depot. You can see the orange signs and the racking and everything like that. And it really just gives this game of realism, and it really does a great job of making you feel like this is our world, but infected by these zombies that you're stuck in. And it's really engrossing, and it really adds to the game so much to make it feel like you're going into real stores that you or I know. And even that evil group at the end of the game that I fucking thought was so stupid. They had built their base at an old resort in California down near San Diego. And as you're going through it, you can see what was a resort. Like, you can, like, oh, I'm in guest rooms right now. And there's like the
beach or the pool or the lunch place or fucking whatever. And it just, again, it makes you imagine what this place looked like before the world went to hell. And I love that stuff. That's the best part of these games, is the way that they really tie the current world into this post-apocalyptic tire fire. I thought the voice acting was superb. Ellie in particular, the actress that provided Ellie's voice, was so fucking good. Like, sometimes she comes across as just a sweet, nice, funny person. Sometimes she's angry and violent. When she's screaming for Abby to spare Joel's life and crying, you totally believe it. Really well done. And one of our patrons, Corey, had asked me if I thought that this genre had peaked and if it'll never get better than this. And I don't know if it has, but I will say this is one of those how will games ever look and sound better than this games. Like, it just, I can't imagine how. I hope they will. They probably will, but I don't know how they'll do it. The cutscenes are so good. They're movie quality, in my opinion, between the acting and the graphics and stuff. The sound. And some of them are really entertaining, whether it be from like a sad point or a narrative point or a funny point. Like, some of them are really funny. My favorite cutscene in the entire game is when Ellie, near the end, Ellie goes to California. She's looking for Abby. She steps into this like old deserted street and gets caught in one of those like snares, you know, that wrap around your foot and then pull you. So she's like hanging upside down. And as soon as she's like, so she gets pulled upside down and she swings away from the tree. And then when she swings back into the tree, like a branch stabs into her side. So now she's laying there, or she's hanging upside down. She's cut open. She doesn't know where she is. She can see like infected people hanging from other trees. She passes out. And then when she wakes up, these two guys come up with like guns and they're laughing how we got a live one, and they cut her down, and they're kind of trying to figure, like, they're obviously going to take her back to their fucking resort and make her one of their slaves with all the other people they have. And then one of the two of them backs into this clicker zombie that's hanging in the tree, and it tries to eat him, and he gets away. He's like, no, I'm not bit. I'm okay. But he's scared. And Ellie's laying on the ground. She's been bleeding out. She's sore. She's beat up, and she starts laughing. And the guy's like, what's so funny? And Ellie's like, you just look like you shit your pants. And the guy's like, what'd you say? And she's like, you look like you shit your pants. Like, being a smartass, even though she's in trouble. And then the guy picks her up and starts feeding her arm into the clicker. He's like, oh yeah, let's see who really shits their pants. And then Ellie like reverses it on him, pushes the guy into the clicker, so the clicker eats him. And while the clicker's eating him, Ellie takes his gun off of him and shoots the other guy in the leg that was there with him. It's just such a badass scene, and just makes you like, fucking Ellie's so rad. It's the best scene in the game. I fucking loved it so much. Like I said in my review episode, this game's biggest problem is just that it isn't Last of Us Part 1. The combat is great. The graphics and sound are good, are great. They're better than the first game. But The Last of Us 1 just told such a phenomenal story. And I felt like Last of Us 2 tried to tell a whole bunch of stories, and they kind of half finished all of them. And I didn't hate it, but it just had too high a bar to live up to, and the story didn't even come close. It's just not as memorable a game. At the end of the day, that's really all it comes down to. And the ending of the first game, Joel basically fucked over the entire world for his own selfish reasons to save Ellie. At the end of this game, Ellie forgives Abby and lets her go, which makes sense and is perfect, but it's so stupid that Ellie threw away her whole life, fought through these people that were torturing Abby, where she could have just left her there to be tortured, to get to her, to fight her, to then let her go. I didn't like that. I just thought it went on too long, didn't have to be done, and the ending is what you remember, right? So I don't think a third game is a bad idea, but I'm torn on it because I don't know what you do. Like, where else do you go with Ellie? Joel is gone. Her family's gone. She forgave Abby. Like, I don't know what else there is to do with Ellie. And maybe you could tell another person's story, which I think could work if they did a better job developing them and stop teasing us with Ellie and Joel. If you're going to develop a new story, don't even put Ellie or Joel in the game, because that way at least I'm not constantly hoping they're who I'm going to get to play as and then finding out that I'm not. Do you know what I mean? As good as this game was, it kind of felt like a bait and switch. It was like Metal Gear Solid 2, where you thought you were going to get to play as Snake, and then you spent almost the entire game playing as somebody else. You thought you were going to play this game as Joel and Ellie, and then you spend a big part of the game playing as Abby, and while you start to like her eventually, it's almost because you have to, like, if that makes sense. It's not so much that I'm like naturally liking her. I'm just like, all right, well, clearly they want me to be you, so I might as well decide to like you, because there's nobody else to cheer for. So that, I don't know. I liked it. I liked it a lot. I'll definitely play it again. I don't think I'm going to put it on a pedestal like I did the first game, but the quality is there. And if its biggest problem is that it's not the first game, then that's not a bad thing. I'd highly recommend it. I'm glad I bought it. It was worth the wait. And I know that this may seem like more of a negative spoiler cast than a positive one, but I just really feel like they had so many great ideas that they just didn't see through to fruition. They just kind of threw them all in the pot. And I would have rather they pulled one or two of these ideas out and flushed another one out better. So that said, fucking killer game, well worth the money. If you're listening to this, you either have already played it or you probably have no interest in playing it, which is why you just decided to listen to this. I strongly recommend playing it. They're really fun games. The combat alone is great. And that's it. What are we at? Fucking 46 minutes on my second episode today. You can tell my voice is starting to sound a little scratchy. I need to take a break. So I'm going to wrap it up right here. Thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you so much for supporting the show. I really appreciate it. I'll be back next week with your next episode of Expansion Pass, where we'll look back at the first half of 2020 like I was going to do this week. So feel free to send in your memories, your comments, all that good stuff. And I'll be back on Wednesday with episode 104, Remember the Game. And Ellie's awesome. And fuck a lot of those other characters. Thanks, guys. Take it easy. And I'll talk to you all again soon. Cheers.
Thanks again for listening, everybody. I appreciate it. We will be back next week with Remember the Game 329, which I'm really, unless The Chosen completely fuck me over. Like, oh my God. I was playing XCOM 2 this morning, and in almost 62 hours of that game, I finally had my first rage quit of a board, where if you've never played XCOM 2, you'll find out next week, where it's just like, I could not land a shot to save my life. I got completely boned, and I was like, go fuck yourself. But I've killed off 2 of The Chosen, almost got the 3rd one down. I'm working through some of the final missions. I'm hoping to get it up next week. You will hear it before the end of the month, okay? So something is coming next week. WWE Day of Reckoning is coming the week after that. Something the week after that. Something the week after that. Probably Hot Shots Golf will be in there somewhere. Lots of Remember the Games. And do not forget, I'm working on it right now. Hopefully in the next 7 to 10 days, all whatever number, 328 or so episodes of Remember the Game will be available to all of our Patreons ad-free with timestamps for $3 a month. And for that $3, you will also get access to our Discord, the ability to submit comments, and access to the entire Game Patch and Expansion Pass archives. And then for an additional $2 a month, you also get Purple Monkey Dishwasher and The Rambling Idiot. It's about the best deal in the history of the universe. So I encourage you to help us keep the bills on around here. Patreon.com/Remember the Game. Talk to you all next week with a new episode of the show. Oh yeah, and if you want more Last of Us Part 2 talk, both my spoiler-free show and my spoiler cast are up here right now on the Remember the Game feed, so whichever one you just listened to, you can go listen to the other one with the exact same intro and outro, because I'm a lazy fuck and don't feel like doing these twice. All right? Love you guys. Cheers.